Peace. So last week I went with the 12 universal laws, but I went halfway. So today I want to go to the other half and really just talk about at the end how these laws really work together and open it up for you guys to ask questions about the laws and how they apply to certain things. So the 12 universal laws. So first, I want to start off with the message of love is an elevation of understanding. When you have understanding, you are no longer in the state of confusion, which brings peace, and peace is satisfaction from your knowledge and wisdom applied. And as a result, you become happy. So the goal here to be in this space is to become happy because we're trying to relieve ourselves of stress of financial things and other things as well. But it's mainly financials that really brought you guys here. So it's understanding finance is one part of it. That's just one part. But the spiritual aspect is one of the most important parts because it doesn't just apply to the finances, but applies to everything in life, relationships with everything. So it's just good to educate yourselves on things about how this reality works because what's the point of living if you don't really try to understand how these things work? Because it's like you're going to just be lost, you know? So I like to be in the state of knowing. I like to be in the state of opening up to growing and evolving. And I understand that we'll never know everything, but I want to be as educated as I can and apply this knowledge in ways where it can help my growth and anybody else's growth. So I'm just going to go over the 7 laws here, and then I'm going to go into the PowerPoint. So 7 is the law of cause and effect. The law of cause and effect states that for every cause, there's an effect. In life, our thinking is the cause, and our experiences are the effects of our thinking. 8 is the law of compensation. The law of compensation states that you reap what you sow. What you give to others shall be given to you. What you without from others shall be withheld from you. 9 is law of relativity. The law of relativity states that everything is relative because we all perceive reality in our own way. Prioritize inner peace and over defending the truth because the truth is relative. Prioritize inner peace over defending the truth because truth is relative. Law of polarity, which is 10. The law of polarity states that everything in life has an opposite. For every problem, there's a solution. For every obstacle, there's an opportunity. 11 is law of rhythm. The law of rhythm states that cycles are a natural part of the universe. Just like the 4 seasons, life has seasons too. And 12 is the law of gender, which is the law of gender states that life works best when our divine masculine and divine feminine energies are in alignment. Okay, so the law of cause and effect. This is why action with intention is important. Action without being conscious will lead to confusion. Knowing what you're doing, knowing why you're doing something will give you clarity on what your reality is reflecting to you. So some people call this law like the domino effect or the butterfly effect, but it also can be referred to karma as well. So the butterfly effect is talking about basically like how the wings of a butterfly, the air that comes from it, like the wind that comes from it, can quite literally cause the tornado that is on the other side of the world. Basically, what it's talking about is like how one little thing can lead to something because of the law that is every action has an equal opposite reaction, but it's also the law of motion. So it's understanding like when you do something, it's going to cause something to happen no matter what. Even a thought that hasn't manifested like outside yet, those things are still affecting your reality. So it's understanding like an object in motion stays in motion. So you're creating the motion, or something is creating the motion, and now it's just having this rippling effect in life. So this is why it's also called the domino effect as well, because it's like one thing led to something else, so to the next thing, to the next thing. So what is karma? So this is the relationship between cause and effect. What is it not? Tit for tat, karma is not about pettiness, nor does it reward such behavior. Karma reacts to the original intention of an individual. Karma sees what we hide from ourselves. Helping someone for merit still shows selfishness and will be rewarded as such. Helping someone because there is care shows generosity and will be rewarded as such. So it's just understanding when you're doing something. They used to say like, oh, there's a saying that it's like something is always watching. Like they'll say God is always watching, or Big Brother is always watching, some saying like that. But essentially, that's just the universe. Like that is just the existence that you're in. It's always technically watching. It's always reacting to what frequency you're maintaining, what thoughts you're maintaining. So when you look around at what's going on in your life, you have to understand you manifested that, you created that. And some people ask questions like, how did I manifest trauma that happened to me as a child? Like, because usually people think this is like a programming thing, and it is a programming thing, but we have to understand that sometimes we're living generational trauma out, but also karma from our past lives. So it's just understanding like there's multiple things playing into why we're doing things as we grow up, and there's ways for us to counteract those things and create a new reality. But it comes with us being conscious and aware. That's all consciousness is. It's just to be aware. So that's what really knowing is. To have knowledge is to be able to look, listen, and observe. So the law of compensation. You reap what you sow. The law of cause and effect go hand in hand together. Karma is the result of your actions over a lifetime. One will create a frequency of karma that will be carried onto the next lifetime. And if you believe in reincarnation, that is very real. It is understanding that energy cannot be destroyed, but it can only be transferred into something else. So whatever frequency you were maintaining at the point of death in terms of like consciousness, understand that's where you're going to start from, because life is always about evolution and change. So it's understanding what you're maintaining quite literally will manifest. So it doesn't matter. It won't change if you're in the period of death, because that's just the switching of that life that you're experiencing now. It's a different perspective now. The goal is to reach samadhi, which is Sanskrit, and that's from the Hindu belief, but also Buddhist, which is a non-dualistic state of meditative consciousness of experiencing. The person becomes one with the observing objects. This is the state of bliss, enlightenment, and oneness. So this is the state of knowledge, to be able to be what they call Christ consciousness. It's being able to observe something, but also understand your connection relative to it. And that is just what knowledge is, like I said, to look, listen, and observe. But we don't come with this predetermined like thought of judgment, because judgment is what keeps us away from the truth, because it's just our perceived ego that is being projected onto the things that we're observing when it comes from that aspect. No need to wish bad on others. Always send good energy, even the ones who did you wrong. So, a Buddhist teaching. Karma is a Sanskrit word, kama in Pali, that means action. The law of karma refers to the law of cause and effects, that every volitional act brings about a certain result. If we act motivated by greed, hatred, or delusion, we are planting the seed of suffering. When our acts are motivated by generosity, love, or wisdom, then we are creating the karmic conditions for abundance and happiness. When we understand karma and our lives and live our understanding, when we act on what we know, then we experience a sense of wholeness and peace. If we live in a way that is out of harmony, ignoring the nature of things, we then experience dissonance, pain, and confusion. Karma says if you focus on hurt, you will continue to suffer. If you focus on the lesson, you will continue to grow. So I say karma goes hand in hand because the law of cause and effect is like what's happening in the present moment, but you build your karma essentially. So that's something, it's like you put your karma in a pile, basically. Like this is what you've done overall over this time span. And this, because of the law of cause and effect, you're now building this frequency, this around you that is referred to as karma, which is the type of actions that you're doing that's on that frequency level. And it's following you until you choose to break your karma, change your karma. So it's all about being conscious, being aware, because you cannot change anything that you're not aware of. So the law of relativity. Truth is relative to the person's current consciousness. Life is like a mandala. Everyone has a different pattern or path, but it will always go back to the center, which can be seen as the truth. Although people have different dharmas, aka life purpose, understand that the purpose always comes from source, the center. So source, God, whatever you want to refer to it as, that is the source energy of all creation. So understanding everybody and everything to even exist comes from the same source. So it's like they have different perceptions though. So it's like a tree experiences life slightly different than a human being does. They have different experience essentially. They're manifesting slightly different, but it's all from the same source. Focus on self-elevation and connection to source to find your truth. The truth comes from source. The truth is life-affirming. Anything that promotes life in balance and harmony is life-giving. So if we want to think about what is really life about, it's really about evolution, no matter what. No matter what, every animal, every living thing is trying to evolve to continue to live, essentially, because we continue to live through our children no matter what. So everything that continues to reproduce is trying to change things that are not allowing them to grow and not allowing them to live long. So homeostasis is something that I refer to as what truth could be, because it brings any self-regulating process by which biological systems tend to maintain stability while adjusting to conditions that are optimal for survival. If homeostasis is successful, life continues. If unsuccessful, disaster or death ensues. So I think of anything that is unhealthy, like unhealthy habits lead to sickness, suffering, and early death. So all these things that aren't true will cause these things like sicknesses, suffering, and early death. It's not saying it's always something different though. Like you can understand what's going on, but you have to tap into basically yourself in order for you to understand. So what I mean by that is, like, for example, I have this understanding that if my heart chakra is closed, I'm going to continue to manifest bad relationships. And I'm a good person essentially, right? But I don't like to be hurt. And I don't think anybody likes to be hurt. But the more you continue to get hurt, the more pain your heart chakra that is now blocked because you didn't work on certain things is just getting all that energy stuck in that space. And for some people, it quite literally manifests physically, and they have death of heart attack or they have heart problems. It manifests in different ways, but you can tell what's happening in your body relative to your reality. So it's just being aware is something that is very important. And healing, working on your trauma before it goes down too far, when it turns into sickness, physical sickness, is something that I really suggest, because when you look at an elder, for example, and you see maybe they're overweight or something's just not right with them, for example, right? We have to understand it's not about the age that makes you have an understanding. It's about the wisdom, and wisdom is a choice. It's not about age. So these people we have to understand a lot of our elders are holding on to trauma, and they've made it a culture where it seems to be normal when it's really not supposed to be normal. It's not supposed to be like something that we embrace, but because we've been so indoctrinated to certain things, it's like this is just what it is, and this is what we're dealing as a community. So working on these things is just very important for our generation, because we have a lot of things to do if we want this planet to be a better place. A lot of people, I hear them talking about how they want to travel to other places to experience peace, but I look at it like this way. It's like those people, that the place that you want to go to, those people are maintaining that vibration of peace, right? For the most part, when we talk about these places. But we have to understand we can quite literally do that where we reside. We can quite literally change the culture where we reside, because we have the power. We have the power to change ourselves. And by us simply changing ourselves, we naturally help the world change as well. By naturally elevating ourselves, we help the world elevate, because we're like crystals. When we maintain a frequency, it's going to cause more, I would say, momentum for people to join that frequency, because it's like the law of cause and effect, or the domino effect, where it's like one person just pushed down that barrier of that frequency, for example. Now more people have that ability to just go on the path. So the law of dharma: seek your highest self, discover your unique talents. Ask yourself how you are best suited to serve humanity. Using your unique talents and serving others brings unlimited bliss and abundance. So what this really is talking about is being able to serve humanity is something that creates natural abundance, but without ego involved. Because we have to understand that when ego is involved, then we're doing a service to the world. People can be exploited because ego is involved. And this is what we see with a lot of the people that have all this money and are in power now. Like, we see successful businesses like electronic businesses, etc., but they're exploiting the people that are working for them. And some people say it's sad. I say it's just is, but I say just is because I understand it's not technically something desirable, but we have to elevate consciously in order for us to make that change. So I try not to let these things bring me down, because I understand if I allow these messed up things in the world to bring me down, it's only going to lower my frequency when I'm trying to elevate to help others elevate in turn. And it's only because I understand that we are all connected. So it's just self-love always radiates to love to others. So the law of polarity. Everything in life has an opposite. For every problem, there's a solution. For every obstacle, there's an opportunity. And in every failure lies a success. We live in a paradox where there is positive vibrations and negative vibrations, hot and cold, light and dark, giving and receiving, etc. People refer to this paradox as one such as a person, situation, or action having seemingly contradictory qualities or phases. A statement that is seemingly contradictory or opposed to common sense, and yet is perhaps true. So polarity. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All paradoxes may be reconciled. So an example of polarity is attached to nothing but connected to everything. When we have attachment to this physical realm, we suffer because it's a lack of understanding of how divine and how we are actually multidimensional beings. And we're not just here on this physical plane, but we're infinitely existing in this universe. The universe is infinitely existing within us and vice versa. So we understand the connectedness, and that means that we're no longer in the state of lack, because attachment comes from a state of lack. Wanting to hold on to something so tight comes from a state of lack, of not understanding like how divine this connection truly is and how deep this connection truly is. The curious paradox is when I can accept myself just as I am, then I can change. So it's understanding, some people say fake it till you make it, but it's like when they're saying that, it's a little, I think it's like a grafted version of what it's really supposed to be saying. And what I really think it's supposed to be saying is basically, first you have to accept what level you're at, wherever you're at right now. In order for you to even want to change, you have to be able to be aware. But you don't have to fake anything. You just have to practice and embody these things. Like practice embodying these things in an emotional aspect, in a physical aspect, whether it's like a habit that you're trying to build, or a spiritual aspect where you're meditating on it and practicing embodying it in your mind, you know? So I think in order for us to be able to fully open up, the most important thing for us to do is be able to see all the things within us in the dark that we haven't shed light on, because we can never know what to fix or change if we haven't tried to soul search, to go within. So only in pain did I find my will. Only in my chaos did I learn to be still. Only in my fear did I find my might. Only in my darkness did I see my light. Have no fear. If there is a darkness growing in the world, there must be an equally growing light. Such are the laws of balance in nature. There cannot be darkness without light. It would never exist. Nothing would ever exist. Because light is a physical manifestation of everything that is perceivable. So it's understanding like without darkness, light could not just exist, because it would just be light, but we wouldn't be able to see certain things because there's no contrast. So the law of rhythm. Life is a constant ebb and flow. The tides go in and out, night follows day, and life regenerates itself after death. A big impact on our day is the circadian rhythm. So last call, I had somebody mention the circadian rhythm. And this is something that we've been removed from in modern society because we have things like technology and light where people can now stay up at night and have off sleep schedules. So there's this saying basically how you get up with the sun and you go to sleep with the moon when it comes up. But that saying is for a reason, and it's basically because of the circadian rhythm. So circadian rhythm and the levels of consciousness. So in terms of the physical, focus on input and output needs of self. That's talking about your sleep. So at night when we're sleeping, our brain is and our body is physically repairing itself with all the things that, all the nutrients and information that we put in our body while we were awake. And when we're asleep, our consciousness is never not awake. Our consciousness is always, it's always there. It's always being. But it's just in a different level, a different state of being, a different state of awareness. So there's things called brain waves. And I'm going to get into that in a different call, but these things really are in tune with the circadian rhythm because our brain waves fluctuate throughout the day. So 2 is emotional. Focus on input and output needs of closest companions and self, I should say. So emotional, I would bring that into the time where you're usually like sitting with yourself. Like the rising is the best time to do your self affirmations of, you know, how you want to embody yourself for the day, for the year, etc. And it's best to meditate as well to get yourself calm and right, and also exercise as well, because these things all combined is it's like a power up to your body because you're now creating this energy within yourself, like this fire that you're building inside yourself. When you're doing these things, you're fueling yourself in a positive, life-giving way when you do these things. So intellectual, focused on input and output needs of community slash culture. So intellectual, I would say like that's also a time where we can absorb things consciously, like thinking and learning. So what we're receiving throughout the day is important because when we're aware of what we're putting into our body, not only physically in terms of like what we eat, but also like mentally in terms of what we're observing, that's something that, you know, can really change our life. If we educated ourselves on something that can create another stream of income, that will change your life. If you educated yourself on a skill that can, you know, contribute to the community and the culture in a positive aspect, that's changing your life, and etc. Like you can keep going on, just understanding that certain times of the day, your brain waves fluctuate, and these are the best times to do certain things. So 4 is spiritual, which is focused on input and output needs of the whole planet. So for me, I like to do like my meditations like different periods of the day, and the rising is a great time. Honestly, I like to do them as much as I can because the more I stay in a meditative state throughout my whole day, the more I'm just in a state of awareness. And so I understand for some people, like when you're starting out, it's kind of hard, or however you may perceive it, it's just something that might not be allowing you to do it. But finding a time where you can just sit with yourself and not only think about self, but also think about the world in a positive aspect. Because when you send love to not only yourself, but the world, you're quite literally changing the frequency of the planet, like I said earlier. So all these things are important to understand. And the circadian rhythm are physical, mental, and behavioral changes that follow a 24-hour cycle. These natural processes respond primarily to light and dark and affect most living things, including animals, plants, and microbes. So we all have this internal clock within us that when we're really in tune with our true selves, will naturally guide us, and we'll be in a state of flow, or what some people call Christ consciousness, or the enlightenment, and etc. So the law of gender. To balance between both masculine and feminine energy is to have an open and flowing kundalini. Running alongside on either side of the spine are the Ida and Pingala serpents. Ida refers to yin, which is the feminine energies of the moon, while Pingala refers to the yang, which is the masculine energies of the sun. So kundalini energy isn't evil nor negative. It's our energy blockages that limit the flow of kundalini, that make it a fearful, painful, and negative experience. So human energy systems. The feminine energy is intuition, nurturing, healing, calm, emotional awareness, expression, and communication of emotions. And the masculine energy is logic, reason, energy of action, firm, ease of acquiring, material needs, and survival and common sense. I would also, there's so many other ways you can like compare masculine and feminine, but I would also say receiving is that feminine, which is like contracting, because dark would be contracting, and light would be expanding, giving. That's just another example. Each person should seek to balance the two energies within them to become a whole being. If they're severely lacking in one type of energy, they may strengthen that by example of another person, but should not rely on an equally imbalanced person to complete their energy through partnership. Two crutches do not allow for walking with ease. Only two strong legs allow for that. By nature, most people will tend to be stronger in some energy and weaker in other throughout life. Some life situations require more of one energy than another to be successful, as they are not completely balanced situations. The goal is not to achieve 50%, 50% balance, but to become aware of these energies and be able to utilize them when they are needed. To use 100%, you want to do 100% everything that you do. You don't want to give half because you're only going to receive half. You want to put your all into these things. So understanding that you want to put your all of both energies because they help you understand all aspects of reality. Because masculine and feminine is constant in our life in so many different ways, but they all work together and they're always present no matter what. So Shiva and Shakti is also another name for them, but this is the Hinduism perspective. Yin and Yang is also another perspective. Alive in both men and women and in the form of energy. So, gender. Mental gender is a state of coexistence between masculine and feminine aspects of the human mind. Our left brain hemisphere largely facilitates the masculine aspect of the mind, or intellect, which is logic, analytical, and linear thought processes, while the right brain hemisphere largely facilitates the feminine aspect, or intuition, creative, compassionate, and holistic thought processes. So back to the Kundalini. So we have chakras, and these are in our body. So in the Asian culture, they refer to it as qi, and there's also acupuncture, which is something that they utilize to basically target these pressure points, which is what they are, that hold energy. And when you do something to this energy by either putting a needle or massaging, or even putting like there's like fire cups as an example, these things on these specific energy points, pressure points, you're quite literally changing the body and creating the flow to come back into it, because you're now moving, you're adding this type of energy for it to flow. So understanding that there's different chakras that rule different energies that go throughout our life. So for example, the crown chakra, that's the chakra that really connects you to Christ consciousness, enlightenment, to source. It connects you to basically just a higher existence of understanding. But when that's closed, you're unable to do that. So you might be living in a state of like you can know some things, but there's a lack of connection, for example. Or the throat chakra, for example, where you cannot speak, but that's just, and you might try to speak, for example, or like, for example, when you're crying, if you feel like you want to speak, but you're crying and there's like this buildup of energy, that's your heart chakra being blocked. And quite literally, it's like you're unable to do something that that throat chakra is would allow you to do if it was flowing. So, which is speaking. So understanding that it's like all these chakras do something, they all matter. And being balanced between them and every aspect is important, because it'll help things flow in your life way better when your body and everything within you is flowing the way it's supposed to. So this is why they say like self-elevation to help the population, for example, because you cannot make anything else change outside of you if you cannot make things change within you for the greater good. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to go to the comments, the chat, and then I'm also going to open it up for you guys to be able to speak if you have any questions. But if you have any questions, you can also type in it as well. So why happiness and not peace? Okay, so peace and happiness go hand in hand, in my opinion. When you're at peace, I'm going to go up to this chart so you can understand, because we're going to go to the consciousness, levels of consciousness. So this top tier right here is referred to as the spiritual paradigm, or what some people may refer to as the 12th dimension. What I mean is happiness is an emotion, not a state of being, if I'm not mistaken. You can be like you feel happy, but isn't the goal to be at peace? I don't know, maybe it's backwards. So there's levels to your consciousness when you're elevating. So peace is basically a higher understanding of happiness. So when you're at peace, essentially, you're at happiness. See, the thing is, people may be happy, but they might not be at peace. Happiness is an emotion, and it can be invoked in a person that might not be as high in consciousness. Somebody can be happy from laughing from a joke, but doesn't mean that they're essentially at peace. There could be things going on in their life, and that thing that they're laughing at can be a distraction, and they could be running away from what's really going on in their life. So the goal is peace, because it's a higher elevation of understanding of happiness. And also, people misconstrued happiness to be like stimulation, something that that's creating that positive like endorphin feeling, when peace is just like a state of like bliss. It's not even like something that makes you descend, because I feel like happiness can make you descend as well when you're also feeding into like that running away aspect of when you're trying to be happy. Like when you're trying to be happy and go out to party, like that's not the same as peace. Like that's not bringing that understanding to your life for you to be even at the state of bliss. But that person might be at the state of bliss in that moment while they're on drugs, because that's something that's euphoric to them, or while they're drunk and that's something that's euphoric to them in that moment. How can something that isn't aware or self-conscious evolve? I mean, life is always changing. We have to understand life is in cycles. So it's not saying they're going to evolve, but they can be changing their habits. It's just it might not be in a higher frequency of existence. In order for it to even evolve in a higher frequency wise, they have to be aware, because they have to see something that needs to be changed. So holding on to trauma is a part of the culture, but we have to realize people aren't educated on how to release, especially in America. And that's true, people aren't educated, but what I'll say to that is you don't need a book to tell you how to do these things. But the thing is, we are living in a culture where distraction is the goal. Everybody and everything is trying to catch our attention when we're going out into this world. Companies, businesses, whatever, programming, everything is trying to catch our attention. And this is because what we put our attention to, we will either want or manifest. So, yes, people aren't educated, but it's also a choice, because we've been dealing with this for a while now. And it's just about how long we really want to deal with this anymore, because people have been tired for a while. And the thing is, people have been working through generations to elevate, but we have to be fully aware in order for us to really change these things. And people are more focused on the financial aspect, which is why they're not able to completely transcend all these things. And this is why their children, for example, might experience things even though they might have worked on it. Our bodies keep the score. Yeah, exactly. They are keeping the record of what we're maintaining consciously. So if we're consciously maintaining something negative vibrationally, whether it's, for example, fear quite literally, or I should say anxiety quite literally eats away at your immune system. Fear and anxiety. it quite literally is proven fact that the more fearful you are, the more sick you are. So it's just understanding, like, we have to really change the way we think in order for us to be healthier. Yep, he healed them after getting jumped. How come everyone talks about chakras being blocked, but no one talks about the chakras being overstimulated, overused? So I feel like the thing is, when people are talking about these things, they might not fully explain it, but to be overstimulated or overusing a chakra is blocking that chakra. We have to understand anything in excess will quite literally create buildup. If we eat too much meat, that's creating buildup in your intestines. If you eat too much in general, that's creating buildup in your intestines. If you observe something too much, that's creating a buildup, and that might make you have a headache, for example, because you're overthinking something. So anything in excess is creating a blockage as well. Because also, if you were in tune with that aspect, if that person was in tune with that aspect of the chakra being blocked, they wouldn't be even trying to do things in that energy in that way. They'd be trying to focus on going within, not having to overdo something on the outside, the physical, to compensate for something that has to be worked on within. If there's any more questions, let me know. If not, I'm gonna pass it back to CJ.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Is it possible at all that you can drop so like this PowerPoint that you use, like you add to it like almost every day or something?
Yeah, I make them. So I mean, I did this yesterday, the rest of this half, but yeah,
That's fine. Can you drop this in the MBW hub for the family?
of course, of course.
Yeah, this is definitely fine. Definitely heat.
Yeah, so you guys can look at these things and understand, like, everything is kind of like the same to me, but they all play into each other. So studying is very important. Eventually, when you study, it'll start to just be your reality. So, yeah. If there are no other questions, CJ, you could take over because I think that's pretty much it.
That's a bet. That's a bet. That's a bet. Definitely appreciate you for taking the time to hopping on the call today. If you guys got some sauce today, drop the fives in the chat. Drop the fives in the chat if you guys was able to get some type of sauce, get some type of information today. I know personally, I want to take this PowerPoint, like even print out some of these things. I think some of the slides are heat. Um, so definitely, if y'all got some souls, drop the fives. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Make sure you guys are in tune for tomorrow. Tomorrow's Conscious Conversations seminar, hosted by myself, Derek, and Andre for tomorrow. We're gonna carry on some few things tomorrow, Thursday as well, same time. So you guys can definitely be in tune for that as well. And these calls are open to the community. These calls are open for anybody. So if you know somebody that you feel like needs to hear this information, if you're learning and you feel like you want to recommend somebody to hear about this, feel free to share the link, feel free to share the knowledge. Soon we will be more global with things, on different platforms. So definitely, look forward to that. But besides that, make sure you guys definitely take care of yourselves, because the more y'all taking care of yourselves, y'all taking care of me, because we are one. I'm gonna see you guys from the top or at the top. The only time we ever look down is to help bring you guys up. If you guys looking for us, you can find us at the beach. You can find us at the bank. Let's get it.